Good evening, everyone. My name is Ann Savage, and I am the president of the City School District of Albany Board of Education. On behalf of the board, I welcome you to our first in-person meeting past the COVID, or in the middle, technically, of the COVID closure. As most of you know, subject to Governor Cuomo's Executive Order 202.1, we have been meeting virtually since the beginning of the COVID closure. If you joined us in person tonight, you know that we are meeting with the necessary social distancing in place. Every person present had their temperature checked on their way into the building, and we are all seated well over 6 feet apart, and everyone is and will continue to be wearing a mask, except when speaking if we find that it's necessary to remove them to be understood. I'm also incredibly pleased to report that our meeting is being live streamed, as many of you know, as you're watching it from home, and that we will continue to live stream all board meetings going forward. As many of you know, the ability to live stream board meetings has been an informal board goal for many, many years and was made a formal board goal in January of 2020. Ironically, that was just before the COVID closure. This certainly feels like something out of a fable whose moral is be careful what you wish for, because we did get to live streaming, but not exactly how we had intended. I instead will see it as a small but meaningful silver lining to the many challenges we are facing as a community. That said, this is our first in-person live-streamed meeting, so I hope you will all be patient with us. You probably noticed that we started a few minutes late as we got used to the new technical environment of live streaming while in person, as opposed to live streaming virtually from our own homes. Because of the limits imposed by social distancing, I do encourage members of the public to carefully consider whether you choose to attend virtually rather than in person. We will always select a large room for our meetings in order to allow as many people to attend as possible, but given the need for social distancing, there will be a practical limit as to how many people can safely attend. One other silver lining in terms of public process is that some weeks ago, the board formally modified our public comment policy, and from now on, whether we meet in person or virtually, we will accept public comment of up to 3 minutes or 400 words by email, voicemail, and postal mail. And of course, when we meet in person, as we are tonight and expect to do so in the future, we will also accept public comment in person. This is a big step forward for us, as we used to only accept public comment in person. For any members of the public joining from home, we will show the relevant slides and documents in the virtual meeting screen. You can also access them via albanyschools.org/BOE if you prefer to be able to control the slides yourself. albanyschools.org BOE is also where you will find instructions to connect to our meetings if you need to share those with anyone else. Finally, our meetings are always recorded, and the recording uploaded a few days after the meeting on our Board Docs platform so that people who cannot observe in real time can see the recording at their convenience. You may have noticed that I emphasized the word "see" just then. In another small step for openness and public process, I am pleased to announce that rather than audio only, as has been our process for many years, we will now be posting video recordings of our meetings. On behalf of the board, I would like to extend a special thanks to the district's IT team under the leadership of Mr. Kent Baker. We know that Mr. Baker and his team have been managing an enormous challenge in order to ensure that students, faculty, and staff have the hardware, software, and connectivity they need to succeed in our new environment. We appreciate so much that in addition to these responsibilities, that team was able to make it possible for the board meetings to be live streamed and for the video recordings to be made available. Thanks also to our board clerk, Ms. Tanya Bowie, who has gracefully handled the many twists and turns of an extraordinary first year as board clerk. I did want to check in with Mr. Baker right now to confirm that we know that the audio and video are acceptable in the home environment. It's all good? Okay. So I will also point out to my board colleagues that I will not be able to hear you, especially down there, Mr. El-Manyawi, unless you have your microphone on, because it is very difficult to hear people far away from here. Nonetheless, with that introduction, I would like those of you who choose to say the Pledge of Allegiance with us as we stand together. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. In addition to saying the Pledge of Allegiance, we always focus our meeting by restating the mission of the City School District of Albany, which is to work in partnership with our diverse community to engage every learner in a robust educational program designed to provide the knowledge and skills necessary for success. Normally at this time we have a superintendent's report, but because we're at the tail end of the summer and the most important thing on our agenda is to talk about reopening, we are not going to have a formal superintendent's report, and instead we're going to move on to the public comment period of the meeting. Give me 1 second. I see a little technical challenge, so I'm going to give us a minute while we catch up with the technology. Mr. Baker, I am getting a sense that there may be some folks at home who cannot hear. Can you validate that on a device to make sure that people can hear? Okay. My understanding is that there was a glitch in the audio at the beginning of the meeting, but that we should now be in position. Okay. And so will just briefly reiterate what I have already said, which is that we are meeting in person. We will continue to meet in person. We are doing all social distancing necessary, 6 feet separation, wearing masks at all times. People are welcome to join us in person. We are in the beautiful and amazing building of Arbor Hill Elementary School tonight in the gym, and we will always choose a very large room so that people can feel comfortable coming to our meetings. Or you can continue to listen into our meetings from the comfort of your own home. We will be accepting public comment indefinitely by email, voicemail, postal mail, and in person. And we thank Mr. Baker and his team in the IT department for making it possible for us to live stream in person, and also that our meetings will be recorded, both audio and video. I am a little bit stalling for time as I see some board colleagues working through some technology, and I appreciate everyone's patience with us as this is our first in-person live streamed meeting. I'm going to go ahead and read the public comment statement, and then we'll do the public comment, and that hopefully will give time to people to get caught up with the technology. We as the board always welcome public input from the community about the decisions we are making. In the past, when we met in person, we set aside this time and people spoke to us in person for up to 3 minutes on the topic of their choice. Per our new public comment policy, from now on, both virtually and in person, we will accept comments by email, phone, and regular mail. Comments that are not in person must be made at least 6 hours prior to the meeting to give us time to collect and verify them as needed. We will continue to have a limit of 3 minutes for spoken comments and 400 words if comments are sent in writing. Our contact information for all public comment is available on the district website at albanyschools.org/BOE. There were no voicemails received by 12:30 p.m. today, and there is no in-person public comment. We do have a handful of emails that Secretary Wilson is going to read, but I'm going to ask Mr. Baker once again to verify that he has confirmed that we're set on audio. No, he says there's a problem with the audio, so we're going to wait 1 minute. I wish I knew American Sign Language, then I could tell people that we could. Okay. I have heard now from Mr. Baker that despite the fact that we've had a few little audio glitch at the beginning of the meeting, that we can now hear. I know, that you out in the general public can now hear. We on the board would appreciate it if a few of you would just let us know through whatever means you have of reaching out to us. We generally do not use our phones or text with members of the outside world during a board meeting, but it's critical that you be able to hear. So if you cannot hear me, it would be helpful to know. And if you can hear me, that would be very helpful to know. We are going to move forward with our meeting at this time. I believe, and Mr. Baker, tell me, will the part of the meeting that was missed on the audio stream will be available by recording? That will be recorded? Okay. So the first couple minutes of the meeting were purely introductory. No business was transacted, and they will be available on the recording if you would like to hear my carefully crafted remarks for the second time. But with that said, we're going to move on to public comment. Secretary Wilson is going to read a handful of letters that we received in public comment. We always appreciate all the public comment letters that we get, and in-person things and in-person comment as well. The only thing I will mention is that if the author uses a specific faculty member's name, we will skip over that in the letter because we believe it is respectful of our faculty and staff that they never hear complaints about them for the first time in a public session. So with that, I will turn it over to Secretary Wilson. Thank you very much.
Hello. The first comment is from Samantha Warrener, and forgive me if I mispronounce her last name. Good morning. My son will be attending kindergarten this year, and my question and concern are the dates of the orientation. How do you plan on accommodating those who are not available at those times? I am a single parent. My children will be in daycare until school starts, but I work Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. to 4:30 p.m., and cannot take time off of work for the orientation. Will the schools record the orientation so that those who work can revisit the orientation at a later time that day with their children? Thank you for your time. The second comment, just bear with me, I'm sorry, comes from Caitlin Purcell. I am a parent of a 3-year-old. She will be attending pre-K for the first time, and as you can imagine, she's quite nervous. She has never been inside of the school building, nor do we know who her teacher is or what he or she looks like. We don't know where her classroom is, where the lunchroom is, or anything of that sort. I believe it is extremely important that children like my daughter and others who have not yet been inside their new schools are given the opportunity to visit their schools in person, to get acquainted with their teachers and classrooms. In my opinion, a virtual orientation is absolutely pointless. Please allow our children to visit the school in person before the first day of classes. Not only is it scary for newcomers to go to a new place, but now everyone in that place will be wearing a mask, which is quite intimidating. Please don't ruin our children's perception of school, and let's do our best not to scare them during these already challenging times. And just one moment. The next comment is from Claire Prophet. First, it references the FAQ from New York State Department of Education on August 21st, 2020, and includes a link, which says the following: portable fans, window air conditioners, portable air cleaners, etc. shall be listed and labeled for its intended use by a nationally recognized testing laboratory, such as UL or ETL. They shall not impede the means of egress to exit doors or access to rescue windows. The minimum code required ventilation shall not be adversely impacted by the installation or operation of the portable equipment. For example, closing natural ventilation windows to run a recirculating window air conditioner, thus preventing required outside air ventilation from entering the space. It is local school board decision to allow these to be brought into classrooms or not to allow them. So in reference, in the light of this updated guidance, I implore the district to seriously work to purchase and distribute portable air purifiers to classrooms prior to returning students and teachers to schools. And the final comment is from Marvina Valdez. Good afternoon. I am writing as a concerned parent in regards to the move of TOAST to AIC. We, the TOAST community, feel like it's not a good move for our young scholars because that program is set up for a demographic of students that require particular services. TOAST students are another vulnerable population that have a different set of needs. Putting a vulnerable population there will exacerbate the divide. If there are space issues that cannot accommodate the final sixth grade class, consider moving a population of kids that are left behind. We also recommend that TOAST sixth grade be moved to North Albany Academy with the rest of the sixth grade classes, or to stay at its current location. We all know change can cause disruption and distractions. Also, we want to promote consistency in our learning environment. As a community, we don't feel it's safe to send our scholars there with all the present gun violence that's erupting in that area. Please don't subject these vulnerable children to such mayhem. They are very impressionable at this age. We feel like it's not conducive to their environment. Once again, our number one goal is safety first. Second, putting out the best healthy, successful scholars mentally and physically. Thank you for your time. And that concludes the public comments.
Thank you again. We appreciate so much all public comments, and we find hearing from community members incredibly valuable. If, in the unlikely event we missed a voicemail or email, we deeply apologize and would appreciate your letting us know. Our contact information is at albanyschools.org/BOE. I did also want to mention that as we work out the kinks in accepting virtual and electronic public comment, it's not always clear to us when someone sends us an email whether the email is meant as a public comment or meant as a private email to the board. We would very much appreciate it if you would clearly label if you want something to come in public comment or if you mean for it to just be an email to us while we figure out a way to make that clear, more clear. In cases where we're not clear, we do always ask, and we abide by the wishes of the writer. So at the end of public comment, we move to the part of our meeting we call routine consent. During this portion of the meeting, we approve routine matters for the district. These include items like contracts, field trips, personnel matters, and the like. Each board member reviews each item carefully, but we vote on them as a group with no discussion. That allows us to use our meeting time more efficiently. Nonetheless, each board member has the option to set aside any routine consent item in order to require a separate discussion and vote on that item. With that introduction, I will now entertain a motion to adopt the routine consent agenda. Do I have a motion? Secretary Wilson. Do I have a second? Ms. Alexander Mann. Are there any set-asides? Okay, I'm going to start at the far, far end. Give me 1 second, please. Mr. El-Minyawi, what would you like to set aside?
I would like to set aside number 31 ACAP.
Number 31 ACAP, okay. Hold on a second, I'm just struggling with a little technology here myself. If you just give me 1 second. Okay, and Ms. Mann, what would you like to set aside?
Okay, I would like to set aside 3 items. Number 10, I think it's Parsons or Northeast. Number 11, and number 22.
Number 22, the College of St. Rose?
Yep.
Okay. Are there any other set-asides? Ms. Wilson?
Item 14, final forms.
I'm sorry, say that again?
Number 14, final forms.
Number 14, final forms. Any other set-asides? I am going to set aside as a group all of the UPK contracts, which include the ACAP contract set aside by Mr. El-Minyawi and the others numbered 29 through 40. And I will take those as a group. So I'm going to do them. So now that we have established those set-asides, can I get all in favor of adopting the routine consent agenda less the set-asides mentioned? Ms. Mann, would you care to vote in favor of routine consent? That is unanimous. And now I'm going to entertain a motion. Can we take your 3 as a group, Ms. Mann?
other,
How about the first two? Okay. So we're going to take number 11, Northeast Parent-Child Society, and, I'm sorry, number 11, Parsons, and number 10, Northeast Parent-Child Society. Do I have a motion to adopt those two? Ms. Board Member Krejci, seconded by Dr. Chatur. Any discussion?
so I'm going to abstain from the vote because I am an administrator for both agencies.
Okay. All in favor of adopting items number 10 and 11? That is 6 members, everyone except Board Member Mann. Board Member Mann abstains. I'd now like to take number 14, final forms. Can I get a motion to adopt 14 final forms? Board Member Krejci, seconded by Secretary Wilson. Is there any discussion? I believe that was Ms. Wilson. Go ahead.
I'm pulling this one out strictly to say how happy and excited I am for the implementation and to see us moving in this direction. I feel that items such as these really just push us forward in terms of being able to consolidate, to track, and to respond to things as necessary. So I was just commending this item.
Thank you very much. Any further discussion? Dr. Chatur?
I want to second what Ms. Wilson said, and this would streamline the whole athletics process and other things which I know have been had issues in the past. So I like the way that we're going to an electronic version with data, like a database that makes it easier for parents and students to submit the paperwork.
Thank you for your kind remarks on this particular contract. I know that this has been a difficult aspect of the beginning of each athletic season for many parents, and it's wonderful to see this major step forward under the leadership of our new athletic director, Ms. Ashley Chappell. All in favor of adopting the final forms contract? That is unanimous. Next one is item number 22, the College of St. Rose. May I have a motion to adopt item 22? Secretary Wilson, seconded by Vice President Smith. Is there any discussion? Ms. Mann?
So I just wanted to get a clear understanding of this contract. We're actually we're entering into an agreement to pay the College of St. Rose for 2 interns, is what I read.
Superintendent Adams?
Thank you. Thank you very much, Madam President. I will ask that Ms. McKenna please chime in with regard to this contract.
Absolutely. So this is a contract that we've had in place in a partnership with College of St. Rose for many, many years, and it supports our special education program and the services that we provide to our schools and our students with disabilities. And it is paid for out of our 611 IDA grant to support our psychological services program for our students with disabilities.
Thank you. That's exactly what I wanted to just clarify where it was paid from. So thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Ms. McKenna. For those watching at home, this is the first time that we've had an input from the cabinet member who is actually not physically here, so this is part of our effort at social distancing, is that only members of the cabinet who are actually presenting will be joining us in person, allowing more space in the room for members of the public who would like to join us in a socially distant and safe manner. So thank you, Ms. McKenna, for your virtual appearance. All in favor of adopting College of St. Rose? So. All in favor? That is unanimous. Now, this next little bit's going to be a bit tricky because I set aside a bunch of contracts and Mr. El-Manyawi set aside one, and we need to cover them all. So what I'm going to propose is that we set aside only, or that we address right now only item number 31, the ACAP partnership, and we'll do all of the conversation about this one. Then we'll do the rest as a group. Okay, so do I have a motion to adopt the ACAP contract? Ms. Smith, seconded by Dr. Chatur. Is there any discussion? Mr. El-Manyawi, would you like to go first?
Yes, thank you. I will be abstaining as I am a member of the board for ACAP.
And then I'm going to continue the discussion. I wanted to get a sense from the superintendent about the way pre-K is being funded. I know, like many, many of our programs, we are facing a 20% cut on our UPK funds. I also know that we generally subsidize that out of the general fund to the tune of roughly $1 million. And I'm wondering how all these contracts work together and if we will still be subsidizing UPK out of the general fund, and if not, what magic you have worked to cause that to happen.
So you are correct. There are multiple funding sources, and so we do have Melissa Hasty on the line so that she can answer questions, but I will first direct it to Dr. Cecily Wilson-Turner.
Good evening. So to answer the question about what portion of the universal pre-K is funded, actually, I should just say pre-K in general is funded through the general fund. It's just over $1 million at $1.128 million. However, over $900,000 of that is tied to the pre-K staff at Montessori Magnet School and Delaware Community School because of the specialized programs and certifications that they require. And the amount that is contributing to the contractual needs of pre-K of our other programs to help offset the per pupil allocation is approximately $157,000. So the impact on general fund would be directly tied to those particular buildings, and then the per pupil allocation for our remaining programs. There's about $10,000 also sitting in supplies. I'm not sure that Ms. Hasty is on the line because I can't see all the stream there, but she and I have been working throughout the week, and we'll meet again tomorrow to continue looking at the anticipated 20% cut to UPK funding and how we would realize that savings and still preserve as much of our program as possible. However, we do know, just based on the current enrollment, that our 3-year-old program would be significantly impacted if we reduced capacity based on the number of seats that are currently vacant to the point where we would not meet our maintenance of effort and would have a penalty for that. We also have vacant seats that we're reviewing in our 4-year-old programs, and we're working, and I say we, Mrs. Hasty is working closely with our community partners and directors at each of our agency sites to review the vacancies and to make determinations about where we can do reductions in the number of seats that we offer and align it with the number of seats that have been requested and filled by parents at this point in time. So it is a work in progress that we will continue to evaluate in light of everything else that we are trying to incorporate with the reopening of schools safely for our pre-K students.
So I want to follow up on 2 different points, both of which I think could, well, at least one could really be addressed afterwards. I remember talking about this with Deputy Superintendent Roaring when we first started reporting our school-by-school numbers, that it appears to me that we're funding the kindergarten teacher portion of that pre-K salary, the pre-K, the person that's in that room at Montessori, which is a dual-age classroom, may be actually partially funded through pre-K money. I can't remember, but if somebody can resolve that, because $900,000 is a lot of money and way more than the number of pre-K teachers that we have at Montessori and dual. That's just too much money for those five positions. So something else is happening there. So I just want to understand that a little better. It can be done in writing, that's fine. And then secondly, I just wanted to ask a follow-up. This is really based on the public comment that Ms. Wilson read about whether we still have a wait list for on-site pre-K and whether some of those pre-K parents have chosen virtual, and whether that is how we're dealing with that when one of the main needs I know of our community is for childcare as well as for education in that pre-K era.
So the answer to both those questions is yes. There are wait lists for certain programs that are off-site and on-site. And yes, there are families who have selected a virtual option for pre-K versus coming in person. And so we're looking at those numbers as well to determine what decision we may have to make about seat availability and what we could offer virtually for families that would help us with the budget decisions that we need to make.
So do we pay the same amount for a virtual child pre-K? Because I understand that's a pretty limited amount of education, right? It's just like a 15, 20-minute circle time kind of concept. Do we pay the same amount as if somebody's there all day?
So the way that pre-K model is designed, it's the circle time, and then it's a daily contact in small groups for each student that's in the virtual space. And so part of the work that we're doing right now in trying to identify how we staff in person and virtual in a pre-K model where the ratios are significantly different and staffing is significantly different is that exact question. What can we compensate for, and what does that look like? Because those children are technically on the rolls for that particular program, and staff is assigned to support both the in-person and virtual students. So as we continue to work through the data of how many students are in person and virtual at each program site and how that will impact staffing, not just at that site, but across sites and across providers, those are the numbers that we're looking at and trying to make decisions around.
Okay, I understand. Thank you very much. I apologize for taking that length of time for me to understand that, but it was very helpful. Any other discussion on this item? All in favor of adopting number 31, the ACAP contract? That is 6 members, barring Mr. El-Minyawi. Mr. El-Minyawi abstains, as he announced earlier. I'd like to get a motion to adopt the other UPK contracts, which would be all of the ones listed from number 29 to number 40, less number 31, which we've already done. Can I get a motion? Ms. Alexander Mann, seconded by Board Member Krejci. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Dr. Chatur, did you care to vote for this? And that is unanimous. Thank you very much. That brings us to the end of the routine consent agenda and on to the next item, which is the discussion, the action associated with our district priority overview. Superintendent Adams, did you want to give us an orientation to this, or do you just want us to do a simple action?
The presentation was at the last board meeting, and I just wanted to open it up if there were any questions. The priorities have not changed. They align with our 5 goals, and just if there are any questions, I'm happy to answer those. Otherwise, we can move forward.
Ms. Smith.
Thank you, Superintendent. I have no questions. I really found this to just reflect exactly what we discussed and where we wanted to go, and wanted to just kudos again. It was a great opportunity to continue working with staff, and again, some of the priorities, the language that we used, I think is just so important for the world we're living in right now, and so I am very excited and really gung-ho about what we were able to accomplish together, so thank you all.
Thank you.
Board Member Mann.
And Superintendent, I would just like to echo what Board Member Smith just put out there. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? I will direct members of the general public who would like to hear a broader discussion on this topic to our board meeting 2 weeks ago when we discussed this at length. That is our normal practice. We discuss something at one meeting and then we act on it the next meeting, giving time for members of the public who listen into the board meetings at home to provide additional feedback to us in between. All in favor of adopting the priorities as established? Actually, I think I need a motion. May I have a motion to adopt the priorities as established? Ms. Smith, seconded by Dr. Chatur. All in favor? That is unanimous. And now we move on to the meat of the program tonight, which is the discussion of the 2021 reopening program. Board, I know that these slides have been up since the afternoon sometime, and members of the public and board members have been looking at them very closely. This is once again an extraordinarily difficult and emotional time for our district as we face the reality of social justice directly impacting us. This is a significant cut in our available revenue that we are having to deal with, and that is extraordinarily difficult, and it is extraordinarily unjust and unfair, and it is what it is. And so we are operating within the confines of the regulatory and fiscal structure that we are working under. And with that introduction, I turn it over to the superintendent to walk us through the plan she has been developing.
Thank you so very much, President Savage and members of the board. I will start by saying that we are yet again faced with a difficult time within our budget. This is something that we did talk about earlier in the year when we were actually going through the budget process. And I still want to say that even through this process, as we have dealt with COVID-19, we have looked at various committees, we have included our stakeholders, we have held over 72 forums at all different levels, including our students, our parents, our employees, and at the end of where we are now with a very strong plan for reopening our schools, we have looked at every requirement that we need to meet, and we have put together a very solid plan. We even have a very solid and thoughtful phased-in approach to bringing our students back in the safest environment possible while understanding that we are in a worldwide pandemic. And there will be angst, there will be concerns simply for that fact that as a world, we are facing a pandemic. And so all of the plans that we have put in place are set, and now we have a crossroads that we must look at. And this crossroads puts us in a position with reduced state aid funding by 20%. As we discussed during the budget development process, the adopted state budget included 3 look-back periods ending on April 30th, June 30th, and December 31st, which allowed the state to reduce aid if state revenue did not meet expectations. On August 20th, the New York State Division of the Budget issued the fiscal year 2021 first quarterly state budget financial plan update based on the state revenue projections from June 30th. The update notes that in the absence of federal action to provide COVID-19 relief funding since enactment of the fiscal year 2021 budget, DOB began withholding 20% of most local aid payments in June. This notification further stated that all or a portion of these withholdings may be converted to permanent reductions depending on the size and timing of new federal aid, if any becomes available. For our district, a 20% reduction in foundation aid is approximately $16.5 million. If the 20% is applied to all state aid, which includes foundation aid, categorical aid, building aid, transportation aid, and excess cost, as it appears to be the case, the impact is $23.2 million. So at this time, I would like to advance to slide 5. And that's basically a bulleted format of what I have just shared. And then we will go to slide 6. As we work to address the significant reduction in aid, we must also factor in the federal guidance for the CARES Act funding. As you know, 4.5 million of our 2021 state aid was replaced with exactly 4.5 million of federal CARES Act funds. The federal guidance around these funds was released after the district adopted our budget in the 2021 budget season. This guidance clarified that these funds are to be expended over 2 years, and also the portion that must be distributed to non-public schools in our geography. In our case, that amounts to about $150,000. To be prudent, we will plan to use half of the CARES Act funds this year and the balance in 21-22. It is important to recognize that New York is the only state that used these funds to supplant rather than supplement state aid. So unless additional federal aid funds become available, we expect our revenue will be reduced between $18.8 million and $25.6 million. And you can see the figures in the chart. As you recall, per the adopted state budget, the state legislature has 10 days after receiving the governor's recommended reductions to provide an alternative. However, DOB indicates that the earliest that they expect to transmit a detailed aid to localities reduction plan to the legislature is late in the second quarter of the state's fiscal year of 2021, so likely during September. The updated financial plan further states that in absence of unrestricted federal aid, DOB will continue to withhold a range of payments through the second quarter of the fiscal year of 2021, which ends September 30th. In light of these developments, our district has engaged this week in the process of evaluating our ability to serve our students and families while targeting approximately $20 million in reductions. As our first step in this difficult process, we are proposing the following changes to our instructional plans for the upcoming year, which will have an impact on our reopening plan. These will remain in place until and unless additional revenue becomes available. All general education students in grades 7-12 will shift to a fully virtual learning environment. No in-person option would be provided for secondary general education students. The pre-K-5 model would continue as planned, with 5 days in person or 5 days virtual as per the parent choice, with the exception that because of a large number of families selecting virtual, we anticipate that all pre-K-5 students would be able to remain in their school building with no need to use Myers or Tony Clement for elementary students. All students in grade 6 would be enrolled in an elementary learning model 5 days a week, either virtual or in person, rather than the middle school model originally intended. Sixth graders selecting in-person instruction would be assigned based on the current feeder pattern. North Albany sixth graders would remain at North Albany. Hackett will serve its assigned sixth graders plus sixth graders from Eagle Point and Toast. Myers will serve its assigned sixth graders plus sixth graders from Ash and Giffen. There will be no change to self-contained special education students, K-12, who would attend school in person 5 days a week as planned. The Albany International Center and the Tony Clement Center for Education would be restructured or suspended as required based on space availability and budgetary constraints. Students from these programs would become part of the general student body with 7th through 12th grade from both programs in a full virtual model, and 6th grade students with a choice between full virtual or full in-person at the middle school, determined based on their address. These two reductions account for approximately $2.8 million in savings, which also includes the totals below. Note that 27% of AIC students, 16 of 59 responding, and 75 of the Clement students, 82 of 110 responding, have selected the fully virtual model, so there will be no change for those students. Because of the significant change to the 6th grade program, the district will work with these families to determine what their choices may be in terms of virtual or in person. These programmatic changes would result in a reduction of staff positions, including administrators, faculty, and staff. We are in the process of evaluating the exact number of positions and exact budget implications of this proposed reduction. At this time, I'm going to transition because this information is also going to feed some of the results that you're going to see, and our cabinet members will join in their respective areas to explain how these changes will impact their areas. When we look at enrollment choice, we have 53% of those who have responded selecting virtual and 47% a hybrid model. So we've had 4,364 select virtual and 3,876 select in person. Please know that our administrators and support staff are working diligently to get us to 100% of our families responding to our surveys. And as you can see, we're pretty close, but we are still working on getting all of our parents responding. With regard to food services, you can see those families that are selecting in person, 47% of those families who would do the grab and go, it would be 16%, and of those who are not doing pickup because they are pretty much virtual, it would be 35.9%. We know that transportation has had a few challenges in terms of how many students can fit on the bus, what would that social distancing look like, what would it look like in terms of sanitizing the bus, wiping down the high-touch areas of the bus. And so we needed to know how many of our students would be impacted by transportation. So we looked at it in terms of those who are eligible for transportation but will not need it. That's 11.6%. Those who are eligible for transportation and need transportation, 22.3%. 22.2% are not eligible, and 43.9% are doing virtual. Again, these are the required components of our reopening plan. These are a highlight of some of the guidelines that we needed to meet, and so we always want to make sure that we state what those required components of our reopening plan are. Several meetings ago and throughout our forums for our employees, our parents, as well as our students, we have clarified the difference between remote learning and homeschool. They are not the same. Remote and virtual is not the same as homeschooling. The key thing that families have to remember in that selecting remote or virtual, students are students of the City School District of Albany, whereas with homeschooling, you have to disenroll from the district and follow the provisions from the homeschooling department with regard to those requirements. And then we define the in-person model. At this time, I will turn it over to Dr. Wilson Turner to speak to us about the elementary school instructional plan.
Good evening again. So as Mrs. Adams stated, we have been collecting our responses for the two models that are currently available for our elementary families, virtual learning and in person, and have made some adjustments based on the data that we have received, particularly around space limitations. We continue to focus on providing the most robust academic experience that we can for both our in-person and virtual students in an effort to help the students regain some of what was lost during the school closure. Our model continues to be at this point that our sample schedules are available in our reopening plan, but we are trying to structure virtual learning that has an opportunity for both synchronous and asynchronous instruction so that we can support families in every model that we can that is reflective of what they need based on what they're trying to balance at home if they choose the remote learning option. But we are still looking to have a balance of 3.5 hours of instructional time per student, which mirrors the amount of time that students will be experiencing on-site, minus some of the other things and transitions that occur when on-site. And so our focus continues to be on our core subjects, our social emotional learning, and to continue to use our online platforms to support learning both in our remote environment and our in-person environment. So we are in that phase of trying to provide final staffing and schedule and classroom location information. That's been the work of the building principals for the last few days and our assistant principals and their teams. But as a result of our baseline data, we have been able to determine that we would prefer to keep our dual language program, Pine Hills, New Scotland, Schuyler, and Sheridan 4th and 5th grades at their own sites based on the percentage of students who will be virtual versus the percentage of students who will be in person. Throughout our process, we have always made it clear that the reason that we were going to split these buildings in the way that we were was because they could not, at 100% capacity, house the students at their own sites. However, we are not offering a program change. It is still fully on site each and every day. And if those numbers were to shift at any point in time, we would have to then go back to that same reconsideration of how we would house all of those students. So I just want to be clear that this shift is simply because of the number of students who are choosing to be on person and our ability to staff in a most efficient and effective way in light of our current situation. Our classroom spaces continue to be 12 to 18, and those classrooms are currently being staged now in preparation for our students' arrival. And we are still, like I said, trying to create a comparable instructional situation with 5 hours of on-site, which includes all the additional pieces of transition and recess and hand washing breaks that will occur in the classroom environment that will also occur in the home environment in a different time structure. We are current with us still assessing our space required for social distancing and staffing. We are getting closer to where we know which classrooms will be able to fit where and all the programming that we'll be able to provide and what that model will look like as we pair staffing needs with the student options that families have chosen. After school program is confirmed, we will have reduced capacity where we're able to run it in order for us to maintain the appropriate social distancing rules. And we may still have to have a few programs that are located off-site within walking distance in order to accommodate the level of programming that occurs in each building. Oh, I'm sorry. I did want to address orientation because that was a conversation in a lot of our forums as well. And we are very aware of what an experience it is for our youngest learners who are coming to a school building for the very first time. And we have started our conversations not just on what our virtual orientation process looks like on those early days, but when we finally do begin to rotate students into school in those very small groups at the elementary level, it'll be by grade level, how we incorporate something that allows the families to meet the adult that they're going to leave their child with. And so my principals are being very thoughtful about that at this point in time, and that information will be provided to families because we also recognize the importance of that relationship and being able to know what adult you're leaving your child with. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Wilson-Turner. At this time, Ms. Laura McKenna will speak to us with regard to the middle school instructional plan.
Good evening again, everyone. So this is a shift from the last time that we met to discuss reentry reopening for our middle school students. And as Ms. Adams indicated, there is a change in our 6th grade model. Previous to this, we had our 6th grade, 7th grade, and 8th grade students coming in a hybrid model, 2 days per week on site, 3 days remote. Given the reentry data and the analysis that we've done, and knowing that we can now utilize our Myers Middle School, Hackett Middle School, Myers Middle School, and North Albany, we are now able to shift to a 6th grade all in-person model, which will allow 6th grade students to attend 5 days per week in person. So at North Albany, we will continue to have students feeding in from SASPA and Arbor Hill. Hackett Middle School will include not only their 6th grade students, but also 6th grade students from Eagle Point and Toast. And then again, Myers 6th grade students along with Giffen and Ash. This will allow us to enhance our academic rigor and accountability for our 6th grade students while maintaining a true middle school experience for all of our students attending middle schools. Students in person for 6th grade will follow a typical 9-period day, and they will have the same opportunities that they would have any other year, where the 5 academic cores along with their encores, PE, health, music, and art. For 7th and 8th grade, again, this is a shift. We are shifting from the hybrid model to an all virtual instruction model. This virtual instruction model for our 7th and 8th grade students will be 5 days per week. They will receive synchronous and asynchronous instruction, meaning live and pre-recorded sessions. And in both models, for 6th grade and in the 7th and 8th grade virtual, we will still maintain that social emotional learning period to support our students' social emotional well-being and their needs there. Again, in this all virtual model, we will follow a 9-period typical day, and students will receive instruction even in the encores through the Google Classroom, Google Meet, Nearpod, et cetera, to support their learning in the virtual environment. Again, we will also have a higher level of accountability with student attendance following the district's grading policy, which will be based on student performance to indicate achievement and development in each class or subject. Our teachers and instructional supervisors will provide grab-and-go materials, which will be established based on the unit of study in each quarter. We will also provide, whether it's for our 6th grade students in an on-site or all virtual model, and our all virtual 7th and 8th grade model orientation for our students and families, and we are working on that. I also just want to make mention that our model for our self-contained special education students has not shifted. We will continue to offer our 2 models for them, the 5 days all on site, and also the remote option for our self-contained special education students. Tomorrow, our middle school principals and their staff will be calling our 6th grade families to further explain the shift in the model and inquire as to whether they would like to change their option or their choice.
Thank you so much, Ms. McKenna. At this time, Mrs. Karen Bechtel will speak to us with regard to the high school reopening plan.
Good evening, Board of Education and Superintendent. There's very little change as a result of this change for the high school plan. We are continuing to work and plan for an inquiry-based instructional model that is student-centered, focusing on those high leverage standards. We will use our Google Meet live sessions and asynchronous teaching, and that would be housed in Google Classroom. Assessment, the grading committee met, and we will continue as usual on a 100-point scale with some accommodations for assessments in an online environment. We're prepared to do that. We have eDoctrina. It's a powerful web-based assessment tool on the, or an assessment platform on the web. So for attendance and participation, we are required to take daily attendance and will continue to do so, also in the pod. Our classes are all virtual. What is absent now with the new plan is 1 day a week of in-person pod advisory time, but we will maintain the pod advisory in the virtual environment. That was always in the plan that that class would meet daily. So this change only means that there will not be a 1 day in-person event. The master schedule stays as usual. Students will be scheduled for all 8 of their classes in that 9-period day. Our plan called for having each class meet 5 times in a 10-day cycle in a period 1 through 9 schedule, but we are looking at that. We may make some adjustments there. We met today, we're meeting tomorrow to look how we might do that. That's better for students and staff. The pod advisory, as I said, will be conducted virtually, and all our self-contained special education classes will be offered on site. Teachers at the high school will have their regular caseload of students, and the pod advisory teacher in almost all cases is the content teacher of the students assigned. The pod advisory teachers, their role is to facilitate tutoring, Google Classroom access and modeling, monitoring those assignments, parents, participation, and attendance. Our goal really with this model is so that every student has an adult at the high school. Every student, a small group of students connected to one adult to help support success in the virtual environment. We will be taking attendance in pod time, and I already spoke to the teaching platform, which is Google Classroom and Google Meet.
Thank you so much, Mrs. Bechtel. At this time, Ms. Kimberly Roaring, our Deputy Superintendent, will speak to us about maintenance and operations. muted? Okay. At this time, Ms. Roaring, if you will address maintenance and operations, please.
Yes. Good evening, Board of Education. The maintenance staff will be cleaning and disinfecting frequently touched items throughout the day. They will also be charged with keeping a maintenance cleaning and disinfecting log. That will be something that will be completed every day. This log articulates to them how many times they are going to be doing the processes, and it requires them to sign and date or time when they do that work. Each building has a disinfecting mister that will be used in the entire building each day. This will only be used when the building is empty or when entry points are entry in between arrivals in the morning. We also are using our HEPA filter vacuums for all floors and vacuuming, dusting our vents to make sure that we are capturing all the dust and contaminants that might be in those areas as well, rather than using the dust mops and things that have been used in the past. We've also moved to automatic floor machines that will allow us not only to do our work more efficiently, but also be more thorough in that cleaning process and disinfecting every day for students and staff. We are doing routine ordering of cleaning and disinfecting supplies, whether it be hand soap, paper towels, hand sanitizer, the chemicals that we need to clean and disinfect. All that's done on a 90-day supply basis. We are also doing purchasing from multiple sources. So when we're working with the various vendors, we're ensuring that they have stock on hand and can meet those demands in the timeframes that we need them to do so. We are also looking, whether it's PPE or cleaning supplies, I want to clarify that. We're also looking, we've increased our fresh air intake above the SED minimum requirement so we can make sure that we have a regular turnover of that air and forced exchange through the filtration system and our ventilation. I do want to note that based on additional conversations with our mechanical engineers and architects and the updated guidance from SED, it is portable air purification systems using HEPA filtration technology are permissible. We will work with them and maintenance as needed to make sure that the use of those do not adversely impact the minimum code required ventilation in those areas, and also look to make sure that those portable units, when used, are of a noise decibel that doesn't impede the learning environment for students.
Thank you so very much, Ms. Roaring. The following areas within the presentation, we have not had any changes to instructional technology, food and nutrition, or transportation. And at this time, we will open the floor for questions.
So, board colleagues, superintendent, everyone just take a big deep breath. I know this is the first time that the board members have really seen this, right? The superintendent and her staff have been working tirelessly on this over the last couple of days, trying to figure out how to address a 20% state aid reduction announced just a few weeks before school opens. That is an extraordinary thing that is happening to us, and it is more extraordinary for a district like ours that is roughly 50% state aid, as opposed to a district that has a much smaller percentage of state aid, where a 20% reduction does not impact them as much. So I know that the decisions and the conversations held by cabinet and administration have been extraordinarily difficult, extraordinarily emotional. The goal is to offer the best, most robust academic program that we can and serve our students to the best of our abilities. And I know that they have been doing everything with that in mind. That said, I think it's very important that we allow time for public comment. We as a board have been very clear about the value of public comment to us. And while we had intended to vote tonight to endorse the reopening plan, we had intended to vote tonight on a reopening plan we had seen before, not on a reopening plan we were seeing essentially for the first time. Now, when we do vote, our endorsement is still an endorsement of the conceptual framework of the plan, because we recognize that many changes will always be happening to the plan as reality is becoming part of what we are dealing with, as opposed to the theoretical. So the endorsement is an important stamp of approval from the board, but it still does not tie the hands of the superintendent and staff when they need to make changes to deal with new regulatory and fiscal realities as they come. That said, it is my recommendation that while we have a very thorough and robust discussion tonight, we hold off on voting until our next meeting. Now, this does present a little bit of a problem because our next meeting is technically scheduled for September 17th, and that's a little late. So we are going to talk offline, not tonight, online, but in the next couple days about a time for a second meeting in September, in early September, likely before even, possibly before Labor Day or immediately after. And that's when we will vote. So tonight will be discussion, and we will not be acting. That is my proposal. That does require an amendment to our agenda, which calls for us to vote. So I would like to entertain, before we even have any conversation, I'd like to entertain an amendment to modify the agenda to take the action item off. Motion by Secretary Wilson, second by Dr. Totor. All in favor of that amendment to the agenda? That is unanimous. Thank you very much for honoring my request. And now I will open it up to questions. As always, we will do one question at a time. I will do my best to make sure that each person gets a question before anybody gets a second question. Mr. El-Minyawi, if you feel that you need to wave and jump up and down, I will understand, as you're approximately 6 times 5, 30 feet away from me. So, Ms. Wilson, I saw your hand first. Can you proceed?
So forgive me, I'm just trying to wrap around. That was a lot of information. It was outstanding, actually, but I want to state that although it's called a reopening plan, that in actuality, when I speak to people, I don't say our school ever closed. That it was ongoing, our work, and we transitioned to support students. And I feel that from a symbolic standpoint, considering all that's going on in the world, the fact that we're trudging ahead and forward is such a, for lack of a better term, I feel like it's emblematic of the need to persevere that we have in our nation right now. And I was very proud, actually, that I was on an unrelated meeting on Tuesday, and it was a community collaborative kind of meeting where they were asking and speculating, well, what about the students and what about their social emotional state? And I was so happy to be able to point to them that on our website we have addressed that. We have a plan, and I'm just so happy about that as well. And really, I think that's just basically symbolic of where I am right now, that no, we don't know what the future holds, but we're preparing as much as possible and working diligently, and so many people are working to combat all the things that are ahead of us at this time.
Board Member Krejci.
Thank you. I just wanted to thank you. I know it's a lot of work. It was a lot of work to develop our original reopening plan. So to go through and totally redo it and rethink everything with a day's notice takes a lot of work, and I really appreciate the level of detail in these plans. It really helps us wrap our head around what's going to happen. I had a question that becomes more relevant with all 7 through 12 students switch to virtual learning, and it's about cameras. There's lots of concerns about whether students will be required to have their cameras on during live synchronous class sessions. People are saying it poses some equity issues as to whether somebody is, depending on their housing, their privacy, and also because unlike a normal classroom where people are live, other students could be taking screenshots or video of their classmates and sharing them or editing them in socially disruptive or bullying ways. So I just wanted to know if someone can speak to that, and as to what best practices are in that, and how we're going to be working with students that might not be comfortable having their cameras on.
Thank you so much, Member Krejci, and I will start, and then I think Mrs. Bechtel can also follow up as well. We do understand that there are some situations where students may not be able to, utilize the camera for whatever those reasons may be, but it is an expectation, just like in our meetings when we are meeting with faculty and staff, et cetera, there is an expectation that we have that quote face-to-face with the virtual environment where the cameras are on. But if there are situations that we need to work through, as with anything, we will work through those situations with our families. Mrs. Bechtel, if you could address a little bit further, that would be appreciated.
Yes, thank you, Superintendent. We do want to set the expectation for cameras on only in order to support a community environment. We have the intention of working much more in small group environments. We are looking forward to Google Meet having breakout sessions where small groups of students can engage in collaborative discussion and work. And in those environments, the camera on is, it helps with the dialogue and the small group instruction. We do know we are setting an expectation, but we are not. It's not going to result in a discipline action. I don't like to use the word mandatory here. I think it's really more about the positive approach of setting that environment in the virtual learning world where students are active participants. And I know that they can still be active with their cameras off, but I think that we are going to try to encourage and support that. We'll talk about those norms as we begin the year. And yes, on the other hand, we do recognize some of the issues and the equity issues that could occur. But whenever possible, we really want to make sure that we can see the faces of our students as we're teaching. And that is really the impetus for setting this expectation. And however we, and again, we'll work with kids, we'll work with parents. We understand there are situations, but we do want to set that positive expectation for the learning environment.
And that's why we can't really have a blanket yes or no, because it's going to depend on the situation. This is a different environment, and so we'll have to work with those differences individually.
I really appreciate your thoughtful answer and your flexibility, and I do want to just encourage educators to look for other options that can present that level of presence, whether it's students creating their own photos to use or their own avatars or whatever, because even though it's great to be flexible and say if students have particular situations where they're uncomfortable showing their face or their background on camera, they could have an alternative that still singles certain students out. If there's only 4 students in the class that won't show their picture, then well, why won't they show their picture? What are they ashamed of? So anything that we can do to both encourage participation but not add to the stigma of somebody who is uncomfortable sharing their life situation would be great. But thank you so much for your thoughtful answers.
Dr. Jator?
Before I say something, I just want to tag along with the previous discussion. As an educator myself, and during this whole COVID situation, as one of the things that you do in a small classroom is you look for visual signs as to whether the student is getting the concept or not. Not having that any way to judge that makes it incredibly difficult, not impossible, but difficult to gauge whether that concept is making its way through to the student at that moment or not. I mean, you can ask questions, you can do reports and all of those things, but it's not in the moment. So I just wanted to add to that. Now, with regards to, I have to commend the district staff for all the effort that has gone into coming to this point where we have a well-defined reopening plan that I am confident and comfortable to send my own children to school. And now we have this 20% budget cut, and this is like so devastating. And I want to encourage all our listeners, all our parents to write to our electeds in the state and the federal offices because something needs to be done. For a district like Albany, which as President Savage said, depends on at least 50% or more of aid coming from the state, 20% cut is a big number. And we are already, it's like, you peeled off that scab and now you're taking a knife and dug into that wound even deeper. I don't know how to, it makes me sick in my stomach.
Thank you, Dr. Chatur. It is an extraordinarily difficult time for all of us, I know, and that sickening feeling that we can't do what we know we need to do is very disheartening. Board Member Mann, did you have a question or a comment?
So with the plan of 100% virtual for grades 7 through 12, I know that at our last board meeting, we talked about the ordering of Chromebooks so that there wouldn't be folks sharing, and that was on back order. But will we have enough to accommodate those that might need one? So every student can have their own Chromebook if they need one?
Mr. Baker, if you'll respond, please.
With our initial reopening plans, you are correct in that we acknowledge the deficit and also acknowledge that we were already in the process of procuring devices to go fully one-to-one, and I'll continue to reiterate both for students and our staff. At this time, we have not taken delivery of those Chromebooks. When we were also initially designing our deployment strategy with a hybrid model, we had indicated that we were going to prioritize those essentially 6 through 12 students, or those wholly or predominantly remote instruction situations, as one-to-one. Having to shift now to a more fully virtual model, unfortunately leaves us with the only realistic option of shifting back to a one per household approach until such time that we take delivery and can afford all of our students a Chromebook. So at this time, we are considering our status much like it was when we ended the year. At that point, we had distributed more than 36, almost 3,700 Chromebooks. We retained some for purposes of equipping our spaces when we begin the year. So at this time, we are assuming that we have still met, as far as a one per household need. We are continuing outreach right now to assess changes in situations, new student entrants, so that we are able to cover those households. Right now it would be in a deficit. So at this time, we are proceeding with a one per household until we can fully realize our one-to-one, and we're very, very hopeful that that will not be much more time.
Can I just ask a quick follow-up about your question and then go on? Because in the forums, you had indicated that everybody needed to use a district-supplied Chromebook because when they were on site, they would need access to network resources that they would not be able to get with their own device. But now that we're going to be 100% virtual for 7 to 12, that's no longer an issue. So people can use their own devices at home. So the need for one-to-one, families that have capacity can provide their own device in order to free up a device for a family that does not have capacity. Is that right?
And I appreciate that comment, and yes, you're correct. Now it does allow us to leverage, or those families who have devices to utilize them for the time being to facilitate the deployment to others.
All right, thank you. I'm sorry, Board Member Mann, did you want to continue?
Well, yeah, knowing that piece, that's very helpful. Thank you. Thank you.
Board Member El Minyawi.
So I just want to say that I'm also truly depressed and upset about this 20% reduction. It was kind of on the horizon, though. So I'm certainly worried, but I'm confident the cabinet and the superintendent will do their best. That said, I was wondering about the two schools that you had mentioned that I think it was Tony Clement and the Albany International that were kind of up in the air in terms of plans. I'm a little concerned because we're coming on to 2 or 3 weeks until school starts, and the staff won't know where they're teaching, where they're working. So do we have an idea of roughly when we're going to be able to let them know?
Member Almin-Yahweh, what we are looking at is after the next board meeting, we would be able to move forward. We will continue with our plans, and we will look at what some of those options might be. And should the board meeting happen next week, then we will be able to notify individuals next week.
I'm going to insert here that this is a very odd situation because it's almost like we're doing the budget and the reopening plan again, right? That's essentially what we're doing, is because the budget was planned at 100% state aid, and now we're going to have 80% state aid. So I think this meeting and next meeting this feels like sort of the first budget meeting, right? Like, oh, look, we have a very big problem here. Now we're going to have a solution. Then at the next board meeting the work will have been done by cabinet and staff, and we will have received feedback on the proposed solution that we've heard tonight from members of our community, and we'll be in a position to have a much higher level of detail about individual position, not humans, but positions that will be impacted and how that savings is going to be realized. And so that is the urgency needed of us to have a second board meeting so that we can implement those, but also the difficulty of the short turnaround time for the staff, the central office administration to figure this all out. So you're absolutely right. It's very difficult that teachers don't know where they're going to be teaching. And it's very, very difficult that parents don't know where their kids are going to be going to school when they thought they did. All of this brought to you by a late-breaking change in our state aid just a couple weeks before school. So I think that's how we have to visualize this, as a very compressed budget cycle again. Did you get your question answered?
Yes, so hopefully next week.
Yes, whenever we're able to schedule a board meeting that's as soon as possible, but late enough that they'll actually have been able to accomplish the work. And so that's the balancing act we'll be working through in the next couple of days to decide when that meeting will be.
Thank you.
Board Member Smith, did you have a question?
Thank you. I don't have any questions. I did want to just express again appreciation for the hard work that staff have been putting into this plan really since we got closed back in March. This has been in process, and I appreciate also your continual ability to make adjustments and to provide flexibility along the way. I am probably at least of one person in here who is in a unique position in that I work with schools, or have been throughout the time that schools closed, to develop and adjust their own reopening plans. And additionally, to also be here as part of this district, working with staff and so forth. And then finally, as a parent who has her daughter return to college, where I worry, what can you do? But you keep moving on. And so I just wanted to offer to families out there that has caused me and my family to really try to think about the fears, the real fears that we have, but to try not to place those certainly on my daughter, or actually a son who's away as well, because that doesn't help them. They are trying to continue on with their life, trying to support, and we're trying to support them emotionally, and also, to help them figure out each part of their work, how to be creative, how to be flexible, how to be patient. So I have taken calls nearly every other day from my daughter about decisions that she's had to make. She's lifeguarding at a private facility in Rochester at school. She starts that 4-hour shift. She finds no one. This is a private facility. No one is in a mask. No one is caring about their social distancing. And, she calls me up. I can't do this. This is not even remotely close to the kind of protocols that we're following at school. Can I quit? And of course, I'm like, of course you can, and you have to. You must protect yourself. So I'm just offering that, just as a family, it has been incredibly, and I imagine for others even more so, an incredibly hard time. I don't think any of us could even imagine this before. But I'm also thinking that it calls upon some great, internal confidence in our abilities to not let the fear succumb us, but to keep working through each step and to exercise some patience with one another. Because that's the other thing I just wanted to offer, as I hear people either in email or on Facebook or wherever, talking. Everyone is hyped up and a bit angry, and we've got to stop. We have got to stop and just say, this is the situation. Let's figure out what we need to do together to get through this or to work through this. And so I'm just offering that. I just wanted to also say my colleagues who spoke about the devastating 20% impact on our district and all districts and all of our communities. It is horrific, but I think we're right. We have to, as a public, speak out about this. We have to vote, V-O-T-E, vote locally, nationally. We have to be involved as a citizenry. And I look forward to our being able to continue to teach that in our youngsters, to be a part of correcting, fixing, solving problems, as opposed to sitting back and saying, oh, well, this is what happened to us. So I'm sorry to wax on here, but I think we all share the frustrations of what's happening statewide and nationally, and the impact on our communities is so, so devastating. And again, we are but one institution. What's going on in healthcare, what's going on in employment, and the economic situation, I mean, it's just, in housing, it's so much to wrap one's mind around. But I am thankful, again, to the superintendent and to the cabinet and all staff for their hard work on trying to do our very best for our youngsters within education. So, thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Smith. All of us are really struggling to balance the information with the emotion and the need to really react to this extraordinarily difficult situation, and to recognize that we are, in fact, all in this together and all in for Albany. I'm going to balance your bigger picture comments with some very, very small ones, just to make sure that as we solicit public comment, which we do hope to hear back from members of the public about this idea and this plan that the superintendent has suggested, I just want to make sure that everyone understands it, including me, because I'm not 100% sure I understand this piece. And I'm going to try and keep them very short, and my board colleagues will perhaps allow me 2 or 3 because they're really, really short. 6th grade is going to be on the elementary model. And that is true of both 6th graders who would otherwise have been in elementary school and 6th graders who would otherwise have been in middle school. Is that correct? Or are the 6th graders who would have been in middle school anyway going to be on the 7 to 12 100% virtual model?
Ms. McKenna, the 6th grade, the elementary model is the fact that they're going to be in school for the 5 days, but the program itself, Ms. McKenna, you can explain that again for us, please.
But that's true for, I'm just trying to make sure it's the same model for all 6th graders. Whether you were going to be at a middle school or whether you were going to be in elementary school, you will be in school 5 days or virtual 5 days.
That is correct.
Okay.
That is correct.
Secondly, I want to make sure that I understood this properly, that the reason, and I believe Dr. Wilson Turner said this, and I may be just restating it, but I really think it's an important thing for people to understand. The reason that we're able to get the 4th and 5th graders back into their home elementary school is because many, many people chose virtual. If many, many people switch over and choose in person for the 2nd quarter, we cannot commit now to hold to that, right? If the numbers don't allow for it, the numbers don't allow for it if we're still in a social distancing mindset. Superintendent is nodding, so I'm going to take that as a yes.
That is correct.
And then I'm wondering if you can give us any more insight into the enrollment, virtual versus non-virtual selections. You've given us the 100% figure for the district, but can you give us an insight into whether that was comparable, elementary, middle, and second, and high school, or was it very different? Was it roughly the same?
I'm not sure I understand the question. Do you mean school by school, what we
Well,
might be looking at?
I'm trying to get a sense of, I think we were at like 43, 53, 47. Is that pretty consistent, both elementary, middle, and high school, and school by school, or is there a lot of variability school by school or level by level?
I'm going to ask for Dr. Wilson Turner to speak to the elementary because that's where we saw most of the differences, but secondary, it's pretty consistent. So,
okay.
Dr. Wilson Turner?
Thank you, Mrs. Adams. You are correct. There was a lot of variability building by building from the elementary schools. It really ranged from 40% in person to 70% in person, which creates very different scheduling models and staffing models for each building.
Thank you very much. And then this is my last, hopefully speed round question is, do we have any preliminary insights into what our overall enrollment is going to be now that we've reached out to every family or attempted to reach out to every family? Are we starting to be in a position where, I know we won't have a real number until Beds Day, but do we have any preliminary sense of whether our enrollment is somewhat down in terms of how that might impact ratios as we are addressing this very significant funding shortage?
So at this time, we are holding steady. We still have about 2,000 more families that we need to contact. That's going to put us pretty close to the 9,000 or so that we had, so we'll know more then.
Okay, thank you very much. That's the end of my short questions. Ms. Wilson, did you have another question?
So thank you again, and I won't wax poetic about how I feel about the sudden, 20% reduction, but I do want to ask a question, and I want to hybridize them possibly because they're almost two separate things. One was during the pandemic, and actually up recent weeks, I witnessed people from our outreach, our homeschool coordinators doing interpersonal outreach in the communities, actually going to basketball courts, getting people to know about our surveys, and raising awareness in that aspect. And it got me to thinking about our community schools, because I feel like our community school has such a full contact model that I just wonder, what aspects of it have they got so far that they've thought about how to still be as effective in a virtual environment. And then the other question, which I know isn't related at all, but it's part of this, I want people to understand, not for my purposes, but I feel like, can we speak a little bit about how we can't tap into construction money to offset our differences?
So I will start, and then I will ask Ms. Roaring to talk about the different funding sources. So thank you very much, Member Wilson. The community schools model, we have taken, that 20% right off the top. And so one of the things that we're looking at is what are those things that are in their plans that we may not be able to complete moving forward. And so right now, that is where we are. We're looking at those plans, and we'll be able to make some decisions over the next week. So exactly what they are, that's what principals will be reviewing, okay? The second piece about the different buckets of funding sources, I'm going to turn that over to Ms. Roaring.
Good evening. So each year the board has our annual operating budget, and that is what we use to run the programs and the instructional delivery for students in our schools. The capital projects, however, are funded out of our capital fund through our capital reserves and through borrowing. And those funds are not commingled. They are not able to be commingled. They are for very explicit purposes, and the use of those capital reserve dollars is directly approved by the voters through propositions, most recently in May 2019, of how we will use those dollars. I hope that helps answer that question.
Anybody else with a second question? Board Member Krejci.
Yes, I actually had a question, and it was in light of the public comment that we received tonight about individual filtration units and the state regulations for them. Are we rethinking, or have we reached any final determination as to whether faculty would be allowed to bring their own portable air filtration devices into their classrooms?
We are still awaiting guidance from the New York State Education Department.
Superintendent Adams, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I believe Ms. Roaring had an update on that. At the tail end of her remarks, she went off the slides and she commented on that. Ms. Roaring, did you want to say again what you had said about that in your original opening presentation?
Certainly. Through some additional conversations with our mechanical engineers and our architect, with some updated information from SED, it is permissible for people to have portable air filtration that are HEPA air filtration in the classrooms or office spaces. We will work with our mechanical engineers, architect, and maintenance department as needed to make sure that those are placed in a way that does not adversely impact the minimum code required ventilation in each of those spaces to make sure that we maintain that compliance. And then we also want to make sure too that the devices that are being used do not run at such a decibel that would impede the learning environment for the students. But yes, that is what we do know as of today.
Thank you so much for the update.
Dr. Chatur.
So, most of the parents that responded on the till August 24th survey, where there's based on the previous reopening plan, they either chose needing transportation or not. Now that the plans have changed, especially for the elementary schools where the kids are going to be back into their home school, they may or may not need transportation again. So are we going to resurvey, or are we going to go back to their previous addresses and say, okay, they haven't moved. Last year they needed transportation, so we're going to assume they need transportation, or I mean, how are we going to?
At this juncture, we are looking at communicating with our sixth grade families because they are the ones that are the most heaviest impacted. We have researched, as we have been talking tonight, about the fourth and fifth graders. If those numbers change, and should those families have selected virtual because they were going to a different site, if those families now want to go to the homeschool, it pushes it right back to.
I think Dr.
No.
Chatur
What
is
I was
asking a
saying,
different question, yeah.
Right. What I was saying is, say I'm choosing to be in person, but now that because my fourth or fifth grader is going to be at Myers, and I live by New Scotland, for example, I need transportation. So I may have picked a different choice. Now that they're going to be back in New Scotland, I don't need that transportation anymore, or vice versa, right? It's for
I'm
those
sorry,
parents.
I totally misunderstood that question, but we would have to look at what those transportation needs are.
Board Member Mann, did you have another question, or are you good? I'll need you to speak into the microphone, Board Member Mann.
I did not. There's a lot that I want to say, but I'm going to hold back because it's such a hit and it's really coming from a place of just emotion and such. So, but no, thank you.
Thank you very much. Board Member El-Manyawi, and I'm going to ask my board colleagues, I personally am having a little hard time understanding people through the masks, and I'm wondering if you can try and speak very directly into the microphone as a favor to me. It could be my ears, I don't know, but I am having a hard time sometimes. So, Board Member El-Manyawi, it is your turn.
Thank you, President Savage. So I understand this is the 20% cut is across the board for all schools. I know a few schools have already decided to waive in-person classes. So I'm not entirely sure if that's the right way to go for our district, but I'd still like you guys to keep that as an option and to really think about it. Thank you.
I'm sorry, could you do me a favor and just repeat your original comment, because I lost a word there and it was an important one.
So I understand a few different school districts are actually waiving in-person instruction and going entirely to virtual, and I would like the cabinet and the superintendent to keep that option on the table.
I see. So you're suggesting to keep it open for our K-6 students as well as for our 7-12
Correct.
Students. I
Correct.
understand.
And
Superintendent.
primarily because if there could be dollars saved, jobs saved that way, that might be a nice option.
Superintendent Adams?
One of the things that we are really focusing on is our youngest students and looking at the structures that need to be put in place for our pre-K through sixth graders. And so we are really trying to hang on despite the conditions that we are under with our 20% reduction. We are really focusing on trying to maintain the population of pre-K through sixth grade because we know that those gaps will only increase. We're also considering and prioritizing our vulnerable populations. And so we want to make sure that that is done. We also know that for 7-12, there will be some challenges, but we are also looking at what types of support we can put in place in a virtual model for those students. Without doing those changes, we would not be able to absorb the reductions.
Ms. Smith, you're good, yeah? Or you have something? Go ahead.
Yeah, I think, actually, and I didn't want to, I wasn't going to debate this, but I actually felt like I could have taken action on just giving you the okay for the, on the reopening plan, because I believe in my heart of heart that you're, because of what you just said and the thoughtfulness, that there's going to be that flexibility. Like, to your question, Mr. El-Manyawi, if we have to go there, I believe that we will be prepared to go there, right? But until then, I really do support the superintendent's vision of making sure that our youngest and most vulnerable are, you know, in person to the extent that we can provide them with that direct, you know, support and instruction. So it's just a general catch-all. I just want to say I have confidence in this plan, and I would have voted tonight to say go forth, and to also give you room to make adjustments as you felt needed. So, thank you.
I'd like to add that you guys have been doing a magical job, really, in terms of the constant audible, the constant changes. You guys have been doing a fantastic job, and anything that I say is just a suggestion, and it's literally, I think you guys are doing a fantastic job, and I also want my kid to go to school this September. I really do, and he does too. Just because I mentioned the full virtual does not mean that is my preferred choice. It's just we have to keep all our options on the table.
And Mr. El-Manyawi, I'm sorry too. I hope that you didn't think I was saying personally. I was just sort of where I am. I totally hear your point, and I just felt like that was actually here and built in. So, but I just don't want you to take that as a personal
None
kind of
taken.
thing. Okay, thank you. All right, we don't have time for that personal stuff, so that's why I want to make sure I'm clear. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, I appreciate that. I'm sure that there's no issue on either end, but thank you for verifying. My last question, or my second question, is really the big picture one. I asked small first and now big picture, which is, given what you know today, where we have a 20% state aid cut, I'm not asking you to project what might happen in January if that goes further, right? I'm only asking, given what we know today, what is your level of confidence that the program that you have described for us tonight is affordable? Right? I know I asked this question when you first presented the reopening plan. Can we actually afford this? And the answer was yes, when we had 100% of our state aid, but we don't. So now I'm going to ask you the same question. Can we afford, with our more limited resources, what we have presented tonight, or really what's your confidence level in that? Because I know you're still at the beginning stages of figuring this out.
So thank you very much, Madam President. I think that is the essential question. When we look at what we can afford and what we can sustain, so not just saying what we can afford right now, looking down the line as to what is the sustainability of our plan. At this juncture, this plan is sustainable because there will be other reductions that would need to happen. But again, looking first and foremost at what is in the best interest of our students and our families, so that our students can get the quality education that they deserve regardless of the environment that they are in. And so when we are faced with those types of challenges, we have to say, given this structure, what type of structure can we have that is going to meet the needs of our families? We totally understand achievement levels. We totally understand socioeconomics. We totally understand the social and emotional development of the children that we are serving. We know that there is no substitute for in-person learning. There is no substitute for that. And so right now, we are in a situation where we have to look at the resources that we have. How are we going to reallocate those resources in order to deliver the best quality education that we can for our students? And so in doing that, looking at how we restructure 2 programs and bring those into embedding them into the other services that we have, which is why we are not saying eliminate. Eliminate means that you're not doing anything. We know that that's not possible. So we have to look at how do we restructure those programs. Then how are we going to look at reallocating other resources so that we can still deliver instruction for our students? So the short answer is this sustainable more than just affordable? It is sustainable, and we are looking at something that could sustain us through the entire year should we not get any other bad news that makes us look at mid-course corrections truly in the middle of the year.
Thank you. I mean, I think that's really the difficult place we've been put. I do want to just add one more philosophical piece, which is, and this is just a difficult balancing act that all administrators are going to have to go through. This board and this community has always had a tremendous amount of support for extracurricular, for sports, for athletics, for music, for art, for things that make life as well as things that make school. And trying to figure out a way to not lose that commitment. I was so proud of this district that through the 2007-2008 fiscal crisis, we maintained all of our sports. We maintained all of our music programs with limited, some cuts, but we maintained the programming. And I know that there is a tremendous societal push to focus on get your kids to read and get your kids to do arithmetic, and that is critical, and that is an essential part of what we're doing, but it's a part of what we're doing. The other part of what I think we're doing, and the reason that I give my time and my life to this work, is to make sure the kids who would not otherwise get enrichment activities at home have access to that, who know about art, who know about music because of things that they're introduced to at school. And so I just want to know, at some point, I feel grateful for the state of New York in that we have a regulation around that requirement that is essential, but I want to live the spirit of those requirements as well as the letter of the law, because it's really the reason that this could be, it can be social justice at work, right? That's what I believe public education is supposed to be, is social justice at work, being a way for people to access parts of life that they might not otherwise access. And so for me, that's the philosophical piece that I know you're trying to balance against all the other pressures, but I would like to make sure that it's kept whole as much as we can. Sorry, there's my turn to be philosophical. Anybody else with another comment? We've done 2 full rounds. If anybody has something that's burning, otherwise we will be getting together again at some point in the near future. We will announce that date as soon as we can, and we will be fully in compliance with the open meetings law and ensuring that we get sufficient notice out for people to know when that meeting is as soon as we know when it is. Okay, with that, did you have anything that you needed or wanted to do as a closing comment? Okay. Then we will move on now, once I find my agenda, to, yes, policy meeting. Dr. Chatoor, it is your time in the sun. Enjoy.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. After that last discussion on 20%, I don't think the sun's not shining. We have 10 policies for adoption today. These are the 10 we discussed at the last board meeting. Briefly, it's 5210, student organizations, 5550, student privacy, 5411, interscholastic coaching, 1530, smoking and other tobacco use on premise, 2000, board operation goals, 2110.1, school board access to information and reports, 2111.1, board member school visits, 2130, board member resignation, 2140, board member removal from office, and 2382, broadcasting and taping of board meetings. Just as a reminder, there weren't any significant changes that were made to these policies. There were stylistic changes or keeping it consistent with NISBA policies or our way of getting rid of pronouns. So may I have a motion to adopt them all as a group? Member Krejci, second by Ms. Wilson. All in favor? It's unanimous. Thank
Right.
you.
Again, I direct members of the community who would like to hear the slightly more robust discussion we had about these policies to our board meeting 2 weeks ago. We did discuss these policies, although as Dr. Chatur said, most of them are fairly procedural in nature, and so there wasn't a tremendous amount of discussion last time. I'm now going to turn the platform back over to Superintendent Adams for her community recognition, community partners recognition discussion.
Thank you so very much, Madam President, members of the board. So this evening, I'd like to share at least some good news tonight. And so I thought it was appropriate to end this evening with the last presentation about our community partners. We will have an update with regard to COVID-19 in next month with regard to where we stand and some of the things that we've seen through this pandemic. But I wanted to start a little bit early so that as we talk about our community and we talk about how people care about our students and how we're truly all in for Albany, our community partners have really stepped up and supported us through this pandemic since March. And so they have geared programs and support to align with our vision, our mission, and our goals so that we can stay true to our ideals and what we believe in. And so I'll start with, I'm not going to read the long list because we have like 4 slides of community partners, but I will pause at each slide so that you can take a moment and see some of the folks who have been instrumental in helping us through this time. And they've done various things. Some folks have come and helped us do food deliveries, delivery of computers. They've been there to assist us with the grab and go sites as well as making home visits. This is a photo from PAL where we are partnering, or they partnered with AT&T to donate masks for our students so that they can have the reusable masks so that they can wash one today and then they still have one to wear the next day. And so we're so very excited about that. Of course, you're going to see our STEManistas. We are so excited about our group of STEManistas, but you can see others of our community partners listed here where they have helped out tremendously through everything that we have done. We also look at, you've got the Capital Region Furniture Bank, but also we've had folks help with our weekend food. We've done food over the weekend for some of our students and families. We've also done that through our own food services department, but these are just even more. We've had churches that have participated. Of course, our legislators have all participated. I do acknowledge the support from the mayor's office and from Dan McCoy, our county executive. So we have quite a few supports that are out there in our community. So when people say, how can we help? Look at all of the people who have stepped up to help us. Usually what we do is we have a reception for our community partners, and this year we were not able to do that because of our COVID-19 guidelines, but we still wanted to take the time to acknowledge all the things that our community has done for us in donating school supplies, individual packets for our students, helping us with PPE. The list is endless. And so we did highlight just a few people, the Albany Police Department, Christ Church of Albany, Redeemer Church, they were with our food delivery during the summer months, our Chromebook distribution with students in March, CDPHP, CDTA, and then the College of St. Rose. We've also had numerous people who have donated materials. I'm sorry. I think I tapped it away. I'm going to try and find it again. If you can. And then okay. So Mr. Baker's going to pick it up for me because I was tapping away. I got carried away because I do get so excited with regard to our community partners. And so there's another piece toward the end that I really want to highlight because it was something that was absolutely not planned, and it just came to happen because if you recall, we have a group of young ladies at Albany High, the Girls Beyond group that Siobhan Comer-Reed started to expose our young ladies to experiences beyond Albany so that they can see different fields and look at things that have a global impact with regard to community, et cetera. And so if you will click on the link for Girls Beyond LLC, they now have a website where you can, are you able to catch it? There we go. Are you able to access it? So I'm going to share my screen again because I have it up. There we go. So this is the website where our girls are featured with the activities that they have been doing. What I really think is exciting is our video has been posted, and it is just girlsbeyond.org. And when you go there, you can see all of the sessions that they have participated in when they went to Washington, D.C. Those things are listed. Are you? I don't know why my... but you can go to the website and you can see the activities that they are doing. There's one other thing that I would like to share, and it's not coming up, but I do want to explain something really exciting that I'm going to find it. I have a different way of finding it now. One of the beauties of what we've been able to do with Girls Beyond is there is a company titled Vision Voice, Inc., which really focuses on giving voice to the vision of equity and inclusion for Afro-X women. This opportunity came to us through a young lady who started her own company, Dessa Shepherd, and I'm going to go to her site so that you can see this. And knowing and hearing about Girls Beyond, she wanted to do something to help and reach out. And what is phenomenal about this is not only exposing the young ladies of Girls Beyond to careers in technology, she put on a 3-day conference for our young ladies. And the companies that we were able to partner with, and that's why I'm going to show you this right now, girls were able to work with people from Snapchat, Disney, and Procter & Gamble. And that was exciting for them because they were able to code right there virtually, looking at how to expand careers of women of color in technology. And so you can go to the Vision Voice website and you can see this is Dessa Shepherd right here. She is the co-founder, she is the CEO and founder of this company. And this is her staff. And they worked alongside, I will share with you the schedule so that you can see the girls were busy each and every day. It was completely virtual. And so the schedule was nonstop. They did take a little bit of a break because we had to explain that our young ladies did need a little break every, so often. They can't just go straight through, and so they did. And then you can see the pictures of the participants. The adult participants are listed, and I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the adult component because this is amazing. But then our girls are listed, and they have a little bio. And I don't know if you remember Andia Logan. She graduated last year, and so she's now an ambassador, a senior ambassador within Girls Beyond. And she's, or junior, senior ambassador, and she serves as a role model for the younger girls. And that's one of the things that we're looking to do is have our young ladies serve as role models for the younger ones. And so you can scroll through, and you can see all of the ladies with their bios and their participation. Their guest speakers, you could easily see those and see the quality people that DESA was able to bring to the table to speak with them. Dante is from Snapchat, and he has done an amazing job in working with our young ladies and teaching them how to code. So the piece that I skipped over that I think really embodies the work that we want with Girls Beyond, there was an adult component. So not only did our young ladies get to participate in this 3-day workshop, DESA wanted to reach out to the adult women in the community to help in the times that we are in when we're looking at unemployment and things like that. We had 4 parents of our young ladies, well, 2 parents, and then the other 2 were not, but they were a part of this same training. And the part that gives me chills is the fact that by participating in this 3-day workshop, they have an opportunity to do a 4-month paid internship, which will lead to employment in the tech field with one of those companies. And that, to me, is what Girls Beyond is all about, and it is what we are about here in our district, because it's not just taking care of our students, it's also taking care of our families. And so with that, ladies and gentlemen, I say thank you very much.
Thank you very much. It is, again, bittersweet to have our community partner recognition in a time of social distancing when we do not have any community partners here. But hopefully some of them are listening at home and recognizing how much we value them and how much we appreciate them. It has been wonderful, and I know I've said this before, to watch how when the school district's doors are open, Albany will come in and support us, and that is extremely, extremely rewarding for us, especially when there are established programs in Albany that can be brought to bear that are a little bit turnkey, so that they can come in and work with us and offer something that we can offer to our students. Ms. Smith, did you have something you wanted to add?
Yeah, I'm super, super excited. I'm ready to jump up and down. Thank you. I personally needed to hear something good today. But I wanted to, I just think that's just so cool. And as you went down the list, it's not that I had forgotten about our partners, but as you scrolled down, I was like, oh my gosh, yeah, there's this one, there's that one. And it made me feel as if there's a great deal of hope about addressing inequities and disparities in our community together, again, about what we can do together, and having partners who are thoughtful, not just saying, hey, we have this amount of money, you can go do that, but rather working to figure out what is it that really is going to be needed here to make sure that our youngsters thrive, right? We don't want them just to graduate, we want them to thrive out there. And so I am personally just delighted to hear this, and just kudos to all of our partners and thanking them for helping us, particularly during this, I think look, we're in this together for a long haul, and I just want to thank them very much for that, so.
Thank you, Vicki. Anybody else have any commentary they wanted to add? Questions? Ms. Wilson?
I want to extend my thanks and gratitude for having community partners. I think when it comes to people willing to pitch in, we actually have an embarrassment of riches. People are overwhelmingly willing to support us, and they often suggest and promote things for us to do. And I had this one suggestion that's sort of piggybacking off of a prior conversation where we talked about how to tell stories and things of that nature, and being that we can't be in person, I think the online dimension where we're virtualized is one place that we can kind of tell stories of our partners and things of that nature.
Dr. Chatur?
It was indeed the bright spot in today's meeting. Thank you for that. Usually when we have the reception, it's so much nice to see all our partners in person and interact with them and get to know them a little better. But I mean, just looking at the slide, there's so many people who want to help. And any other people who are out there who are not on that list, and you want to help us. So reach out to us. Let's figure something out, because our kids need every opportunity that you can provide. Thank you.
Mr. El-Minyawi?
So it looks like there's over 70 partners, and these are the ones that made it to the list. I know that there are a lot more that do all kinds of things for our district and for our students that remain unmentioned, and really thank you to the people that are on this list, the companies that are on this list, groups that are on this list, and those that aren't. Really fantastic that you put together this group. And I also just want to kind of reiterate, over the summer when we were delivering meals to our students, so many people came and volunteered, and I think that's what we're going to need going forward. We're going to need people to step up and assist and fill in where they can. So thank you for sharing.
Anyone else? Thank you very much. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah? Board Member Mann?
Superintendent Adams, when you were presenting, it makes me so proud, to be a part of this community, and to be a part of the school community and the city of Albany community. And I thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Board Member Mann, I took my mask off to get a sip of water, and you were much more succinct than I expected, so I have to rush my mask back on. Anybody else with a final comment? Otherwise, we will all look forward to a formal community partners reception sometime in the future when we can do those kinds of things again. Board members, this brings us to the item on our agenda, which is board committee reports. Does anybody have a committee report? I think not many committees have met since our last meeting, except maybe facilities. Did you guys meet? Ms. Smith? Our meeting was, I don't remember the last meeting.
I believe we had a facilities meeting, but we had a board meeting, so I don't think we've met since, or?
That's right.
Okay.
Well, if I might, I just wanted to say that our next meeting is, I know it's a little ways away, but it's September 22nd, and we will continue to provide an update on the progress of the high school. And, I love driving by, because every other day it looks more incredibly, exciting there, and look forward to our really being in that building soon, all of us. And the other thing that we will be talking about, continuing to talk about, is our 5-year facilities plan. And we did, one of the things that I may not have said, but that we tended to on the 18th, was to really look at the scope of work with our new architects, Tetra Tech Architects. They'll be providing some new services to us, and you might recall that we approved their contract on the 13th. But what we looked at under the leadership of Ms. Roaring was looking at how we could save, it was a cost saving kind of review, and that was very, very helpful. So again, we'll continue that work on September 22nd, and again, thank you, everyone.
Board Member Mann.
The Government Relations Committee is meeting on September the 14th at 8 a.m. And that is before the next board meeting that's
The next
on the
currently
calendar.
scheduled board
The
meeting,
current-
but
that- exactly.
probably after the next
Exactly.
actual board meeting, once we get that scheduled. Yes, I know that we haven't met in some time because we've been involved in a variety of other activities, but I think that probably some letters, as described by Dr. Tator in his exhortations to members of the community to write letters, maybe some formal letters on behalf of the board to the state and federal government are called for at this point because of the significant impact on our school district. Is this committee report or other business? Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to add, and I think I did share with the board, that I was able to participate in a discussion with other area districts with Congressman Tonko. And I've always found him to be very supportive, down-to-earth kind of guy. And it was just a really, really good discussion with him about a number of issues that all of the area districts are focused on. And it was an opportunity to ask him to really focus on a number of things. Obviously aid, obviously school food nutrition. We just ran down transportation, and it was a really good dialogue. And additionally, it was an opportunity for him to share with us some insight into Washington and the goings on there. I don't personally get to have that much of an opportunity, but it was really helpful to get a perspective from him. And so that work will continue. It's something that NYSBA set up that we're participating in. And so as I continue to represent the board on that front, I'll continue to share with you those discussions. And certainly if there's anything that you feel you want me to take back in that regard, I'm happy to do that. So thank you.
Board colleagues, any other items of good order? Dr. Chator?
Policy is going to meet on the 9th of September.
All these meetings are announced on the board calendar on the district website. All of them are also live streamed, so people can watch them from home. Another piece of our improved public process and transparency as a result of our need to go virtual. Well, now we can go virtual. Anyone else with either committee update or other business? If not, I get to say the magic words. Motion to adjourn. Dr. Tator, seconded by Board Member Mann. All in favor? That is unanimous, and we are adjourned. I will just say before we turn the recording off, many, many thank yous to the information technology folks. I know that everything was not perfect tonight. Nonetheless, we really appreciate it, and I appreciate the members, people watching us at home for your patience as we work through the kinks. Anytime you do something new, you find the flaws the first time you try it, and that is where we were today, and we will get better every time. So thank you all so much. Good night.